Welcome to the episode, Sports Talk, and welcome to Week 13 of 2025 college football season. We are nearing the end of the college football regular season. A lot of scenarios and possibilities are still out there, still available. Some shockers last week kind of changed aspects of the college football playoff landscape. Some have some iteration with possible conference tie-ins, and we'll kind of go over quick snaps of the 12 games I brought to you last week, how I did. Then I'll go over the new playoff poll, and then my new updated point index poll, and we'll dive into Week 13. So let's just go ahead and dive into Week 12. Just do a little flashback. Oh, it's 7-5. Reversed my misfortune in Week 11. Definitely a few games that didn't play out the way I saw. The Notre Dame, it was too much for Pitt. I think everyone kind of knew that one. Michigan was over Northwestern. Arizona, this school continues to be the bane of my existence this season. So when I pick them, they lose. When I go against them, they win. I keep saying I'm not going to do it, but they always show up because they reach that threshold that, kind of go, hey. They go in Cincinnati, rocked the boat, knocked off the Bearcats. South Florida Navy. I figured South Florida would be too much for Navy. Navy will lose their third in a row. Navy is like, no, the ship's not sunk yet. It's an actual submarine. Torpedoed South Florida's American run and give me my second loss of the week. And then Oklahoma went into Tuscaloosa and shocked the Tide at home. Giving Alabama so far their only conference loss, but only one more conference game on the schedule. And all in all, already have their slot taken care of for Atlanta. I mean, there's still 2 more weeks left to go. A couple more conference games out there that can dictate how the SEC plays out. But yeah, USC will knock off Iowa in a very close defensive battle, which I knew was going to be the way Iowa has been playing against these top teams, especially Oregon and Indiana. And same thing with USC. So defensive wise, they're there. Their offense is not overpowering anyone, and that's part of Iowa's problem this season. Then East Carolina played host to Memphis, a key showdown in the American. The Memphis need this to stay in the race for not only for the playoff position because the playoff committee loves Memphis, but also, stay with that American Conference Championship slot. And East Carolina, once again, I went against them, and once again, the Pirates proved me wrong. They beat Memphis. The students stormed the field and tore down the goalpost. I don't know why they did that. Memphis wasn't really, this overpowering program, but they did it anyways. So East Carolina has themselves in a good position in the American. Georgia hang on to beat Texas. I kind of figured that one. With Kansas State, Jacksonville State, I will be honest, I'm not familiar with the Conference USA programs per se, except, what I see on paper. And paper-wise, Kansas State just looked a little bit better than Jacksonville State. Jacksonville State kind of went, don't believe all what you read. See with your own eyes what we can do, and they did. They took the task of Kansas State, held firm towards the end of the game when Kansas State started to come back. But them getting that commanding lead in the Conference USA race. The Pirates face Kansas State again in a couple weeks, and then I picked BYU or TCU. Was not disappointed. Like I said, 7-5, not bad at all. So then we'll go dive into the college football playoff rankings that came out. Louisville, Iowa, Pittsburgh, South Florida, and Cincinnati all departed after all their losses. And pretty much it was almost the entire bottom half of the rankings except for the 23rd rank. So let's kick things off. Arizona State returns. They're at number 25. Tulane now becomes the favorite for the American. Houston comes back. Mizzou and Illini as well. We'll see Tennessee move up to 20, moving up from 23 to 20. Virginia maintains. Michigan maintains. Texas drops 7 with their loss to Georgia. A 3-loss Texas program, more likely not going to make the playoffs because I don't think the only way they can get in is to win the SEC, and that is not viable. Georgia Tech holds steady at 16. USC up 2 to 15. Vanderbilt holds at 14. Miami up 2. Utah and BYU both up 1. While Alabama drops 6 with their home loss to Oklahoma. The Irish maintain. Oklahoma just jumped 3 to 8. Ole Miss, Texas Tech, Georgia all move up 1 while the top 3 remain unchanged. Let's go ahead and throw into my point index. You see here, my 25th ranked is Wake Forest. Wake Forest has done some surprising games, especially the shocker to Virginia. Texas drops all the way to 24. Arizona State creeps back in at 23. Vanderbilt jumps 2 to 22. Same thing with Houston. They jump up 2 to 21. Tulane up 2 to 20. James Madison up 2 to 19. Utah only makes up 1, while Miami will jump 3. North Texas maintains. Oklahoma only jumps 3. Virginia and Notre Dame just switch positions. At 12, Michigan maintains. Georgia Tech and USC also do a little swapperoo. Alabama drops to number 9. Oregon, Ole Miss, Texas Tech, BYU, and Georgia all move up 1 spot, while my top 3 don't change. So as you notice, my top 4 mirrors the CFP's top 4, just the order's different. Time to dive into week number 13. I only got 10 games this week. A lot of these games I had a hard time picking. I tried to find 2 teams that both had above 500 records, and then that left me to about 7 or 8 in total. Then I started going, okay, now I got to find other ones. So I will have a Friday night game in this week's picks. But I also try to find games that have huge conference implications as well. That's going to play a heavy factor in the upcoming playoff push, basically. So let's kick things off Friday night when we head to Las Vegas. Well, the 8-2 UNLV will take on the 7-3 Hawaii. Both programs are 4-2 in the Mountain West. Part of a huge Mountain West programs with 2 conference losses. So a win here helps project one of these programs a little bit closer to probably facing San Diego State. Because you got to think New Mexico, Boise State, and Fresno State are all in this huge dog pot right now. So this is a must-win to keep in pace with the other 4-2 programs in conference play. And for the Rebels, of course, led by Colin Durea, over 2,500 yards, 18 touchdowns, 6 picks. Thomas comes out of the backfield, 780, 8 touchdowns. For the Rainbow Warriors, Alejandro, 18 touchdowns, 7 picks, with over 2,300 yards passing. Sims comes out of the backfield, over 480 with 3 touchdowns. And the defensive line is basically about the same. You got a couple of guys that get a lot of sacks. And you look at some of the aspects with these programs the past couple of weeks. With Hawaii last week, shocked San Diego State because I called it the other direction, and Hawaii gave San Diego State their only loss. But then the previous week to that, they lost to San Jose State. So they're kind of inconsistent right now. I mean, they've had some great wins, especially that win against Stanford and turn around and losing Arizona. So, but you look at the Rebels, they had double overtime to knock off Utah State. But they lost back-to-back games to Boise State and New Mexico. So UNLV is actually on the outside looking in on these 4-2. So they need a lot of help. One way to do that is to help themselves win this game and hope for New Mexico and the Boise States lose one of these games coming up. But analytics right now likes UNLV at 73%, the Lions at 3.5. I do think this will be a close game. I would not be surprised if this does go to overtime as well. But I ain't going to give it to the Rebels in a very close-fought battle to keep their conference championship hopes alive. But any mistakes they make, it's going to cost them dearly. So we'll kick off Saturday with number 8, Oklahoma, taking on the 22nd ranked Tigers of Mizzou in a SEC clash. Now, Mizzou has no skin in the game when it comes to SEC. Oklahoma being on the outside, really, with 3 teams right there with 1 conference loss, and A&M being undefeated so far in conference play. So I'm not seeing any opportunity because Georgia is done playing conference. So it doesn't matter if Oklahoma wins out. They're not going to see anything to get past Georgia. So this is really a huge step to trying to ensure Oklahoma's acceptance into the playoffs. Because I think if they win this week, they might have a almost guaranteed position in the playoffs. But things can change in a heartbeat. Mateer, over 2,000 yards passing, 8 touchdowns, 7 picks. Definitely got to clean that up. Blaylock, 400 yards coming in that backfield, 4 touchdowns. For Mizzou, Hardy, over 1,300 yards, 15 touchdowns. Still got that freshman right now. He had a great game against Mississippi State. Struggled against A&M. So expect him to continue his upward trajectory. But right now, analytics likes Oklahoma 64%. The Lions at 9.5. Oklahoma's defense is going to play a huge factor. Look what they did with Alabama. Look what they did with Tennessee. They're going to stranglehold Mizzou's offense. But if Hardy, who has over 1,300 yards rushing and 15 touchdowns, Oklahoma is going to try to stop that Mizzou rushing attack and force the freshman to beat him in the air. I think that's where Oklahoma is going to survive. The points, I am not too certain that's going to be the case. I think it will be close. I think I might take Mizzou for the points, but I think Oklahoma should be able to make Mizzou a offense only one-tier focus, have the freshman quarterback try to beat him. You should be able to find holes in the gaps in the defense, but I think Oklahoma's going to be too much in the end and end up winning, giving them their 9th win of the season. Now I have to Dallas, where SMU 7-3 take on the 7-3 Louisville Cardinals. Now the Cardinals have nothing to do with ACC whatsoever. 3 conference losses, they're done. SMU is part of a 4-team squad of 1-loss conference opponents, and SMU is trying to make it back to the ACC championship game. They made it their first year in ACC. Why not make it a double feature? No, it's not quite the same team that shocked the nation last year, but they definitely have some returning players. Jennings being one of them, over 2,000 yards passing, 21 touchdowns, 9 picks. Harding comes out of that backfield, over 600 yards, 6 touchdowns. For the Cardinals, Moss, over 2,300 yards passing, 11 touchdowns, 7 picks. A factor SMU could exploit because that SMU defense is quite formidable. And Brown comes out of the backfield, over 780 yards, 5 touchdowns. One of the key aspects for that is Miami game, where I didn't think they had a shot, but that defense came to life. But they also have opportunities where they just fall flat. Wake Forest is a prime example because they lost to them the week prior. One of the reasons why I think Wake Forest found their way into the my point index poll, knocking off SMU and Virginia. Some key victories there. Now, Louisville has lost 2 in a row in close matchups. Lost to overtime to Cal, lost to Clemson, which they had control of, and lost it. So, and they too had that great win against Miami. So I think Miami's going to find themselves on the outside looking in when it comes to ACC championship opportunities. But yet they're ranked higher in the CFP make this make sense. But SMU analytically is favored at 68%. The line's also in their favor at 3.5. I myself don't see any issues with this one. I think SMU will make this close, or will have a close victory. Like I said, Louisville's going to make this close. It's just how these two teams are going to operate facet-wise. But it's just, I think, too much firepower from SMU. The defense is going to be a huge factor in this game. Kent Smith getting that backfield for the Mustangs to get more sacks, as he already got 8 on the season. But I am taking SMU to walk away with their 8th victory of the season. Now I head back to Conference USA. This is, spoiler, I have 2 games of Conference USA this week. This will feature Kennesaw State will take on Missouri State. Both programs are 5-1 in conference play. But Missouri State is ineligible for postseason play. This is their first year in the FBS. Now, they might get a waiver later on and get to a bowl game, or may not. I think James Madison had a great year, their first year in FBS, but couldn't get in. But Mizzou's definitely making some waves and kind of saying that, hey, we're right to be selected to come up here and take the bid. But they're also tied with Western Kentucky with the 1 loss, trailing behind Jacksonville State, who Kennesaw State now has that loss to. Odom for the Owls, not very good stats, 1,500 yards, 8 touchdowns, 6 picks. Bennett, only 500 plus, 2 touchdowns. For the Bears, Clark, over 2,200 yards, 19 touchdowns, 8 picks. Lawrence, over 700 yards, 5 touchdowns. And you see Missouri State stack up some nice wins. I mean, they struggled against Middle Tennessee, got them by 2. Won overtime against New Mexico State. Touchdown over Florida National. 4 points against Liberty. Had a greater performance against UTEP, beat them by 14. And you see what Kennesaw State struggled against Jacksonville State, came back towards the end of the game, a little too late, and I'm losing that one 35-26. But pretty dominant prior to those games and had better wins against almost the same opponents that Missouri State faced. Now, analytics likes Kennesaw State 6-7%. The line's in favor of the Owls at 6.5. I might take Missouri State just for the points, just because I think this is going to be a very close showdown between these two. I think Missouri State can make this a little more interesting because Kennesaw State showed that they cannot slow down a decent offense. Missouri State has that offense, but maybe they'll find ways to trick their way in. Maybe the defense will kick things up. But once again, I'm going to go with Kennesaw State for the victory. A huge Big Ten showdown in Eugene, Oregon. That doesn't even sound right when I say it, even though it's the thing. But the 7th-ranked Ducks, 9-1, take the 15th-ranked Trojans of USC, 8-2. Both programs are 6-1 in conference play. Just waiting for someone to trip up. They're tied with Michigan right now, all 3rd in the Big Ten standings. Ohio State and Indiana are a 1-2 right now. Ohio State has that big game against Michigan. There is some opportunity for them to get in. So you're telling me there's a chance. And look at some of the past games. I mean, they both had that great win against Iowa. USC dominated Michigan. So the thing is, they don't have Ohio State on there. Indiana's already beat Oregon already. So we kind of see how things will play out between USC, Michigan, and Ohio State if they all end up having the same record. I'm forecasting Michigan over Ohio State. I don't know what's going to happen, but looking at the passing, the stats, more for the Ducks, almost 2,200 yards passing, 21 touchdowns, 5 picks. Winningham comes in the backfield over 620, 5 touchdowns. For the Trojans, Maivia, over 2,000 yards passing, 18 touchdowns, 6 picks. Miller, over 700 yards, 5 touchdowns coming out of the backfield. It's going to be interesting to see which version of this. Oregon's defense has been pretty good the past couple weeks. I mean, they only allowed 10 points against Rutgers, not saying much. 7 points against Wisconsin, not really saying much. 16 points against Iowa. Iowa's offense is not quite that spectacular, but Iowa was able to make some deep throws towards the end of that game. So that secondary for Oregon is susceptible to pass plays. Only 13 against Minnesota. But when we take on teams that have a better defense, they struggle because they only got 18 against Iowa, only 21 against Wisconsin, only 20 against Indiana. But they have 2 of those wins. So USC's got to bring their A game in this one. I think this is going to be a key showdown with these two. Right now, analytics all over the Ducks are 72%. The lines that favor the Ducks, 8.5. I don't know. Maybe I spiked my coffee this morning, but I'm taking USC to win again and have the Ducks lose a second game in Eugene. Well, I said there's 2 games in Conference USA, and here's game number 2. The conference leading Jacksonville State heads down into Florida in Pittsburgh Stadium, taking on Florida International, who are 5-5 overall. The Panthers have no inclination of conference title. They're 3-3 conference play. They are out. No chance for them to get in there. All they can do is be a spoiler. And they had a couple good games. I mean, they had a goal overtime knock off Liberty, but they struggled against Missouri State, struggled against Kansas State, but they beat Western Kentucky. Well, that's 3 of the 4 teams leading the conference. What can they do with Jacksonville State? That's what kind of geared towards this one because of the possibilities what FIU could do. Jenkins right now is over 1,400 yards passing, 6 touchdowns, 4 picks. But Owens comes out of the backfield for over 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns. And for the Gamecocks, Creel still over 800 yards passing. Cook over 13 yards rushing and 13 touchdowns. This is going to be a rushing showdown between these 2 teams. Can those defenses stop the rushing attack and force the quarterbacks to beat them in the air? Now, for Jacksonville State last week, they knocked off Kennesaw State, racked up 35 points, held on to the victory against the Owls. So I do expect them to kind of do the exact same thing. They tend to do that. These games are kind of close with them. Like Sam Houston, they only won by 2. Memphis, Tennessee is only by 3. UTEP's only by 3. They had a 13-point win against Delaware, but it was pretty much a shootout in the first half. So I kind of expect that type of scenario once again, that Jacksonville State's not going to blow them out, but it should be a close affair. Right now, analytics likes Jacksonville State 54%. The line has it as Florida National at 1.5. So they also see the plays right now with both teams, how they kind of operate. And Florida International right now is on a 2-game winning streak. Can they knock off the second of the top 4 teams in the conference? That's going to be a question. I don't think so. I do think Jacksonville State, I dialed them last week. I'm not going to dial them this week. But I just think Jacksonville State is going to be just a little bit more. That rushing attack by Cook is going to be the driving factor in this scenario. And I think the Gamecocks will be able to escape Pittsburgh Stadium with a victory and a guaranteed slot in the Conference USA Championship. Now time to head to H-Town in a Big 12 showdown with the 23rd-ranked Cougars of Houston taking on the 6-4 Horned Frogs of TCU in an old Southwest Conference clash. And these guys haven't been in the same conference in a while. Houston right now has 2 losses in conference play. On the outside looking in, because I think it looks like BYU and Texas Tech are poised to head into Arlington. But in Houston, Utah, Arizona State, Cincinnati all have trying to get in there. TCU has nothing going for it at all. In fact, they've lost 2 in a row in conference, 3 in the last 5 in conference. Houston's trying to rebound from their shocker to West Virginia. Struggle against Central Florida, but escaping that one 30-27. And the Cougs are led by Wiggum, over 2,100 yards passing, 18 touchdowns, 7 picks. Connor, 725 yards rushing, 4 touchdowns. Hoover for the Frogs, over 28 yards passing, 23 touchdowns, 10 picks. Barnes comes out of the backfield, over 440 yards, 3 touchdowns. So both teams led by very competent quarterbacks. Houston has a little bit of rushing attack. Houston also has a decent defense. They have that bend, don't break type of philosophy. They proved that against Texas Tech. Texas Tech had a lot of opportunities to score, but couldn't score 3 points a lot of the times, which kept Houston in that game. Right now, analytics likes TCU at 53%. The line's in favor of Houston, much like the Jacksonville State Florida National game. They see both sides of this coin. On paper, TCU looks the better, but Houston seems to perform better overall, and I'm in the same position. I do think Houston's going to be slightly better than TCU in this game. Nothing against the Horned Frogs. But I don't see them upsetting the apple cart too much. I think Houston's going to be able to edge out that victory. Now it's time to head to Atlanta as the 9-1, 16th ranked Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets play host to 7-3 Pittsburgh Panthers. Both squads have one loss in the ACC. Now I mentioned this earlier because SMU I had earlier because they're hosting Louisville in a key matchup as well. This one could be who's going to be in charge of the conference heading to that final week of the season. And Pitt's got to come off of that thumping by Notre Dame. I mean, they've done pretty good thus far. I mean, they very erratic Florida State won by 3. Continue Syracuse woes, beating them. Same thing with NC State. Stanford didn't have much of a chance. Georgia Tech got surprised by NC State, but otherwise they've been kind of dominated by everyone else. I even won at Duke, where everyone was picking the Blue Devils. I was one of the few that picked the Yellow Jackets. But now Henschel leads the Panthers over 16 yards passing, 12 touchdowns, 6 picks. Turner comes out of the backfield, 400 yards, 6 touchdowns. King, the dual threat individual that he is, over 2,200 yards passing, 10 touchdowns, 2 picks. But he also runs for another 800 yards and 14 touchdowns. Pitt's got to try to contain him. But the problem is, if you prevent one aspect, he's going to beat you with the other one. So that's kind of a hard thing for this defense to kind of handle. And they had a hard time against the run, against the Irish, with that dual head running attack that Notre Dame runs. So expect the same type of scenario once again. Right now, analytics likes Georgia Tech at 57%. The line's at 2.5. I'm not going to challenge either one. I think Georgia Tech is going to be way too much and continue their march. And probably, I might even say, guarantee their spot in Charlotte for the ACC championship. Over to Baton Rouge as the 6-4 Tigers take on the 8-2 Western Kentucky Hilltoppers. Not really much to say about this one. This is the time frame SEC likes to throw in a non-conference game before that last week of the season. LSU is one of the few that did not pick an FCS opponent like Alabama. And Nussmeier is going to probably look at this game, trying to get his stats back up. I mean, only 1,900 yards passing, 12 touchdowns, 5 picks. Durham over 440 yards, 3 touchdowns kind of in the backfield. For the Hilltoppers, McIver over 1,800 yards, 12 touchdowns, 5 picks. Very similar to Nussmeier. And Parrish over 400 yards rushing. Very similar to Durham. So these offenses tend to mirror a little bit, but I think LSU is definitely a little bit better team overall. You saw what they did against Arkansas. They finally stopped their 3-game slide. And now Western Kentucky's on a 3-game winning streak. I mean, they still have their final game of conference they play. So this is just going to be one of these games to kind of give them a little extra oomph. Maybe give them extra, if they could pull off an upset. Analytics all over LSU at 95%. It's 22.5 is the line right now. I might take Western Kentucky for the points. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I think 21 points might be the most I think LSU is going to win by. So I think Western Kentucky can make it a little bit close. But I don't think it's going to be as much of a thumping as the line kind of suggests. I might think more like the South Carolina game. But yeah, definitely LSU in this matchup. And we'll end things with a Big 12 showdown in Cincinnati in the tall suburban grass, where the Bearcats 7-3 will host the 11th ranked Cougars of BYU 9-1. BYU right now virtually tied with Texas Tech on top of the conference. Cincinnati is just one of those 2-loss teams, kind of outside looking in. Their loss last week to Arizona really hampered, getting blown by Utah's hampering. Now they got to take on another powerhouse offense with BYU, and BYU is looking for blood. Sorsby leads the Bearcats over 22 yards passing, 22 touchdowns, 4 picks. Walker comes out of backfield, 650-plus with 4 touchdowns. Bachmeier, over 2,100 yards passing, 13 touchdowns, 4 picks. Martin, over 900 yards, 6 touchdowns. Sorsby is probably a little bit better of a passer than Bachmeier, but the rushing attack by the Cougars is going to be a key factor, and can Cincinnati trying to corner that rushing attack, which is going to be a difficult problem. Because then if you look at the Cougars, Kelly has 7 sacks and leads the defense. Is he going to make his acquaintance with Sorsby? It's going to be the thing. Right now, analytics is all over BYU at 68%. The line's only at 2.5. So I like that aspect where the line kind of keeps it a little close, because I think Cincinnati will make this close. BYU is going to struggle a bit. I think it's going to be like that Utah-Arizona game. It's going to be that close of a game between these two. And Cincinnati's trying to stop the skid they're on at the wrong part of the season. I don't see much changing in that aspect. I like BYU to win on the road to pretty much almost solidify their position. Still with a game still left to go. Well, there you go. Those are my 10 picks. Like I said, wasn't a lot going there. Next week's going to be very more prominent, because there's going to be a lot of key factors to take effect with that rivalry week that's coming up next week. But a lot of key games in conference. That's why there's 2 games in Conference USA. Surprisingly, I haven't really touched the MAC so far this season, but, it is what it is. Like I said, a lot of key aspects in terms of jostling for positions, try to get a snippet of the chance to get in the conference championship, maybe solidifying their playoff resume a bit. But let me know down in the comments below, which game do you think I should have covered? What do you think of my picks? Do you think I'm completely wrong? How you like my poll settings? I mean, it's like I said, it's not for everyone. I'm going to alienate a lot of people with my poll, but it's just a formula. That's all it is. It's almost like a computer poll. It's a formula. It's not my personal opinion. But let's mix it up in the comments below. The more we mix it up, the better we boost the YouTube algorithm. The more all my YouTube algorithm we must pay homage to ensure frog cortex is overloaded with information that we must absorb on the daily content, including the ramblings of an old man about college football. We're just watching random card videos. If you like the video, hit that thumbs up. Greatly appreciate it. You want to further support this channel, the best way to do that is to subscribe. You just smash that subscribe button, click that bell icon, and turn on notifications to let you know next time I post any more content on my channel. And I'll see you next time on Chat Sports Talk.